This video is about how to cover a book and preserve it. From this to this. Hi, welcome to my channel. I'm Baba Kobi. If you have been to my channels, you must have seen that I've featured programs or videos about Africa, especially in Zimbabwe, so that you know how people live in Zimbabwe. And this one about our school time when we were trained to cover books so that we protect our books to last longer. I will show you how we covered our books using some khaki paper. Sometimes we would use additional plastic over the khaki paper to ensure that they don't get dirty. Transparent plastic over the khaki paper makes it even look nicer and better. If the cover was creased, you could even use an iron to make sure that it is straightened up and becomes crispy and nice. So in this video, I'm showing you how we did it at school. And at the opening schools, every child was expected to cover their books. The new textbooks and exercise books were all to be covered. So it was a task for every child to make sure that they obtain the cover. It was good business for bookshops because they knew that school children needed book covers, and they sold those. Even in supermarkets, it's common to find cover, a roll of khaki or manila paper for use as cover for books. So every child at school had to get that cover. Once school opens and you are issued with books, you count how many books and you estimate how many covers you need for them, and you buy maybe 1.5 rows or 2 rows, and then you cover all your books. Some of us could not afford to buy these new rolls. We used to go where construction sites were, got some discarded cement pocket paper bags. When builders are building, they use cement, and cement comes in paper pockets. After they've emptied the cement, they discard of the package. So we used to get those and shake them and clean them to make sure that the cement dust is cleared until they are acceptable as covers for use to cover our books. Little did we know that there was a lot of dust as children. We just got this cement dust. It was expected of all children, but we didn't know the danger that we were exposed to dust, pollution from the cement remnants on the paper. It was actually a task. Of course, we knew there was dust, and we would shake the dust to make sure that the cover is dust free. But we didn't know how much we inhaled from that. So it is a lesson for those who are doing it now. But I think now, with the modern awareness of pollution and the dust control, people are aware now that they need to get clean khaki paper to cover the books. So they would make sure they buy their children the proper design cover for books. In our environment, I used to live in a mine environment where construction sites were abandoned and supermarkets were far away in town. and the local store sometimes would not provide these necessities or anything that the school children really need. So you would have to go to town to get what you needed. But in our case, we never had time to go. It was expensive to go to town. So the easiest was to look for construction sites where we know we would have an abundance of discarded empty paper bags after they used the cement for construction. I think now, as I said before, this practice has been stopped. I mean, the practice of picking old cement bags, but I cannot rule it out in some areas where there are still poor children like we were. They might still be doing the same thing. So anyway, I'm going to show you in this video how we did it. I hope you learned something from this, and you can also do it right now to protect your books. You can cover your books to make sure they maintain their quality. One thing I didn't mention, we always cover the books, because if I went to grade 1 and the books that I used in grade 1 and were well maintained, I would sell them to the next child who is coming to grade 1 when I am proceeding to grade 2, and so on. So that it was common that second-hand books, textbooks, and especially textbooks, not the exercise books. Exercise books had to be discarded or they go with the owner. But textbooks were covered, and to make sure that they are in a good condition. When you sell them, they are also presentable, and the buyer would actually remove the old cover and put the new cover, and it looks just as good as new. So it is a way that we were taught to preserve books, and that is in with me, and this is why I have done this video, just to show you how Zimbabwean children protect their books or preserve their books. And I'm quite sure they still do it in some schools, although modern technology might have come up with some other means or modern methods of teaching. But I doubt if most schools have completely abandoned the system. So here is the video. Any book can be covered in this way, and this is how it is done, as I am doing it here. Just follow the procedure and you can also cover your books and preserve them. It was a very simple way to protect books for us during our time, but I see in some places people don't do it, to just keep books as they are. From my time, it was taboo for me to keep a book without a cover. So any book that I acquired or I got from school or even bought it, I always had to cover it, because I was trained to do it that way. And that way we preserved our books. Like I said before, it was a way of preserving books so that they last longer, and we had to pass them on to the next pupil when they needed them for going to school after us. So we would get a bit of money from selling those books, so that we would be able to pay less for the new ones that we would need for the next stage in school. So it is a very good way of preserving books. And you can do it. Once you do it, your books look the same, apart from the writing that you do on them to identify what that book is about. So each book has to be handwritten on to show that it is for a certain subject. If it is, like in this case, a notebook, I will write my name and notebook. So every child at school had to do this and write their books. It was a requirement for all children, and I suppose it still is a requirement because I've not been to a Zimbabwean school for a long time now. I'm not sure if they still do it, but I'm sure it could be still prevalent in remote areas where people find books very difficult to keep or to get new textbooks. Preserved textbooks will last longer and at least more people will use them before they get totally destroyed by constant use. Once you use a cover, you will see how good the book looks, and it is preserved in such a way that when you remove the old cover, it will appear as if it was a new book from the shop. It is a very effective way of protecting or preserving books. So anyone can do it. It's a very simple method. Just size up the book with the cover and cut it to size, then fold the ends in and tuck in the corners to make sure that they hold the cover in place. That is where it is held in place so that it doesn't come off easily. In some cases, those who could afford it had to use sellotape to hold the ends in place. But we were taught to do it without sellotape because we could not afford sellotape. And it just worked just as well. This is how we preserved our books in Zimbabwe. It reminds me my good old days at school, and I hope you also learn from this and try it at home or school. It is a very good way of preserving books. I tell you, you go and try it and you'll come back and write your comments below and tell me how you find it. But this is how we preserve books, and they stayed longer than they would. It was a very good system, perhaps introduced because of poverty, but whoever introduced it had a very good research on this process because it is a very, very effective way of preserving books. And I hope you find it useful too, especially for school children who see that they have to keep some books longer than they normally last. If they love a certain book, if they cover it, it will last even longer. You see, there, tucking in the corners, make sure that the cover holds in place and does not fall off. Every corner is done the same way. Once it is done, it actually stays in place, and once it's constantly done, remains so, and it looks quite presentable. It will be a neat set of books if you have got more than 2 or 3 books looking the same and only marked by the indication in writing for what subject they cover. This is how we did it during our school days. We had all the plans to make sure that we make things last longer, and we would share the books at school because some textbooks were very scarce and it was difficult to obtain. Sometimes they would be too expensive to buy. So once one buys a textbook, they had to preserve it and pass it on to the next student for a small fee so that they can also use that for the next one which they need for the next grade. It was a very effective way of passing on books. And like I said, there it is done. The last thing is to mark your book with your name and the subject that you use that book for. If it is an English reader, write English reader. If it is a notebook, then it is a notebook. If it is an exercise book, it will be an exercise book, either mathematics or arithmetic, English exercise book with your name on it so that it is not mixed up with other school children. Thank you for watching. I hope this has been helpful to you. If you liked it, please remember to subscribe and like. There you are. Thank you very much for watching.